Beloved, we are gathered here in the faith of everlasting life to thank God for our friend and Christian brother, Robert Moore McGann. We are here also to seek God's comfort for ourselves, and especially for those who knew and loved Bob best and will miss him the most. The eternal God is our dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. This is the same one who assures us that blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Therefore, let us enter into this holy time of worship and remember God's eternal promises and everlasting love. Let us join together in prayer, found on the bulletin. God of all creation, who cannot be contained by our boundaries or our definitions, you are present in every distinct place, in every moment in history. You are here and now. Help us to understand those separated in death are each of them in your presence, that beyond our horizons, beyond our boundaries, beyond our understanding, they are in your embrace. Amen. reading comes to us from the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Bob's daughter, Lisa, is a practicing Buddhist, and so today I'm sharing a piece that comes from Lisa's teacher's teacher. In Wisdom of the Lotus Sutra, Daisaku Ikeda says, Josei Toda would often say that upon death our lives fuse with the universe. It's not a matter of there being a soul, rather one's life as an entity of the oneness of body and mind returns to the universe. The universe itself is one great living entity. It is a vast ocean of life. It nurtures all things, gives all things life, and enables them to function. When things die, they return again to its embrace and receive new vitality. There is a boundless and overflowing ocean of life, always in motion. As it moves and changes, it enacts the rhythm of life and death. Our individual lives are like waves produced from the great ocean that is the universe. Emergence of a wave is life, and its abatement is death. This rhythm repeats eternally.
And our third reading comes to us from Paul's letters to the Romans. Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in affliction. Persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Pursue hospitality to strangers. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be arrogant, but associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. And that invite Bob's son Matt to come up and share.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. I'm Bob's son, Matt. I want to thank you for joining us for his celebration of life. Whether in person or virtually, it means so very much to all of us. and I know Dad is happy we're together. From a young age, Dad knew he wanted to be an engineer, a husband, and a father. And while he did achieve these things, he achieved so much more. His life journey is a testament to this great heart, his intellectual curiosity, his sense of humor, and his love of family. Both his family by blood and his family by love. Born in 1940, Dad came of age in the 50s. And while his grandkids know him as Pooh-Bah, perhaps borrowed from the sitcom Happy Days, they may not be aware of Pooh-Bah's adventures as a charming, handsome, precocious, and mischievous teenager. For example, who would have thought the talented, hardworking high school student who was also the kind and considerate soda jerk making ice cream floats at the local pharmacy was also a pool shark on weekends, hustling in the pool halls in the next town over. A man of many talents and abilities, that was Dad. Dad's intellectual curiosity and spiritual seeking continued throughout his life. And he became so much more than he could have imagined. Dad did achieve early success as an engineer and a business executive. But when diverse job opportunities and lofty promotions came his way, requiring relocations to far-flung places, it didn't interest him. His family was his top priority. Even when the CIA tried to recruit Dad due to his work in mathematics and physics, he passed on the offer. He was devoted to his family and to building the life he has always dreamed of. As a family, we look to him for guidance, as a problem solver, a sounding board, a shoulder to cry on, and also a constant champion. Dad celebrated our achievements with tremendous verve. For example, Dad loved attending his grandkids' school plays and games to cheer them on and beam with pride and appreciation. Carol, the love of his life, taught him how to have faith, and that even during hard times, there were moments of joy to be found. They had a whirlwind romance that most of us only dream of. His love for Carol allowed him to transcend the rigid emotional programming of his youth, and it allowed him to trust in their love and express the gamut of his emotions and to grow. For example, Dad became an accomplished cook thanks to his longtime love affair with Carol. Despite his talent for cooking fine foods, though, he retained an enormous sweet tooth. Not surprising for a man who once wrote an ardent fan letter to Entenmann's Bakery Company in hopes of scoring a year's supply of coffee cake. He shared his sweet tooth in an unspoken alliance with Heather, the two of them often choosing the restaurant for the family dinners based solely on the selection of desserts on the menu. His creativity was also applied to artistic endeavors, creating elaborate chalk drawings to greet the grandchildren at the holidays. These were hidden talents that emerged during his happy times with Carol. Carol showed him to loosen his grip on the proverbial steering wheel. For example, she introduced him to the idea of taking more than one vacation in a year, a novelty for him. And they traveled. They traveled Europe, the Caribbean, and summer spots on both the East and West coasts. And they behaved like teenagers sometimes on these trips, charming, precocious, mischievous, and were sometimes gently invited not to return. While the trips were not always to exotic locales, as long as they were together, they could leave their cares behind at least for a while, and dance. I imagine them dancing now together. And Dad did love to dance. He did a dance for Jessica called the mashed potato. You can do it smooth, or you can do it chunky. It was also known as the bob amongst Jessica's friends, and it became quite a popular dance move at the school dances. Please ask Jessica about it if you're curious to know more. After Carol's untimely death, he carried on and continued to invest himself in his children and his grandchildren and his dear friends. This group of friends were the dream team of friends, if ever there were one. All accomplished in their own ways and paths, sharp-witted, and supremely kind, like Dad. This dream team rallied around Dad and helped him to re-engage in the church and in the tight-knit community around him, and he loved them for it. He also loved to entertain, especially if it involved barbecuing. He was quick to invite newcomers and was the perfect party host and guest, knowledgeable on almost every subject, and always happy to engage and share an anecdote. And he liked to joke a lot. He once called Lisa at her art supply store and said in a heavy Russian accent, "This is Boris good enough. I looking for yak brush. You have?" He was so convincing that he had to reassure a flustered Lisa that it was actually him and not a demanding Russian painter. Dad valued human connection. He played tennis competitively until the age of 80. And before that, and played chess daily against a computer program. Before that, against some advanced players on the internet. Dad loved growing vegetables in his plot at the community garden, and then earmarking them, his crop, to go to the food pantries in the area. Dad was a voracious reader of mostly history. He knew details of major conflicts and historical events, and he was happy to share his knowledge. He was a great storyteller. And he never stopped telling stories, some strictly factual, and others with a little bit of embellishment to keep his audience wrapped up in his story. Some ended with us groaning, "Come on, that can't all be true." He used to make up fairy tales for my sister and myself. One of the favorites was Big Blue, a happy-go-lucky whale. It was one of our favorites. Big Blue had outrageous adventures and misadventures all over the universe of his underwater world. Inspired by his curiosity and zest for life, Big Blue always relied on his wits and quick thinking to overcome obstacles to find his way safely home. Thinking back, Big Blue reminds me of Dad. Constantly curious, sometimes mischievous, eager for new learning experiences, but always loyal and loving to his family and friends. During the pandemic, Dad and I became lockdown buddies. We connected on many levels, including our love for good food and wine. We had a wonderful and meaningful conversations while eating and drinking and couch surfing while navigating his long list of favorite war movies until we could finally land on something we both could enjoy. We became friends. I was so grateful for our time together as father and son and as friends. Dad, thank you for being my dad. Thank you for being my friend. We love you, and we will always miss you.
We invite anyone who'd like to share a memory, a short story, even just a word or two about Bob. We invite you to come to the microphone so that everybody is able to hear. So if you'd like to do so, please come forward.
I'm Christine. Bob was my big brother. Everyone else called him Bob or Robert, but to me he was Bobby. When he was going to college at NYU, he would hire me to do simple chores, making his bed, 5 cents. Polishing his shoes, 5 cents. But the big money came when he was hungry. I would make him peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 10 cents. Obviously, food was twice as important than a neat bed or shiny shoes. He was my first employer who taught me some basic life skills, however, nothing about asking for a pay raise. I was a cheap employee, but I loved him deeply and was happy to help. When our dad passed, my brother Bob took on the role as patriarch. Not a job he asked for, but one my mom so needed. His kindness and wisdom became so important to our family and carried us through some very difficult times. He was a model of kindness and compassion. He always made time to talk. Maybe more important, he would always take time to listen. Bobby, I think you are listening right now as we say goodbye. We love you and will always miss you.
So I'm Lisa Morlong, Bob's daughter. I just want to correct one thing. So Dad did call me. I was working at a Pearl Paint and art supply store, and he disguised his voice, so I didn't know it was him. And he said, "Do you have any yak brushes?" To which I said, "What's a yak?" And he said, "Lisa, this is your father. You don't know what a yak is." So he made life really fun. He just made the most mundane things pleasurable, and he was one of a kind. And I was just, like Matt said, so grateful to have him as my father, because he was kind and generous and always steady and always so brilliant. You know, he just had an answer for almost everything. And like Matt said, he knew a lot. You know, he just read a lot. So he was well versed on many subjects. He would have loved this. He loves an audience. I don't know if you all know, he was a ham. And like Matt said, he loved to dance. So he really had a good time, you know, and we were just so grateful to be a part of it. So thank you for being here. Thank you.
I'm PJ Mucan. I'm a friend of Bob's. When he first started attending the Palisades Presbyterian Church, my dear friend Carol was asked by the then pastor, Lori Ferguson, after someone appeared in the church 3 times in a row, they sent a deacon to go and find out what he was about. and they had heard that he was a practicing Buddhist, and how he came to the Palisades Presbyterian Church from the brick church where he lived quite a ways from here was a surprise. And before long, Carol's visit as a deacon became a little bit more friendly, and eventually they were married in my house. They were married in the church. The reception was in my house. And when they were married, it was a cold February, and it was a snowy day, and Carol called up in tears about the wedding. And I said, no, it's going to be fine. And I had a couple of kids snow blow the side yard, so we had plenty of parking for the 125 people who joined us for that wedding. Some of you are here today. And I think that Bob was always a friend of mine because we were both Virgos. And I was born September 1st, and he was born September 5th. And always on my birthday, he's tucked a bottle of Sancerre into my mailbox. And during the pandemic, my son and my daughter-in-law were very upset because he came over and we were supposed to be social distancing, but we killed a bottle of Sancerre on the front porch. So I will always remember him with the Sancerre.
My name is Michael Shapiro, and I think I met Bob very short time after he started attending church here. I certainly attended their wedding. But I want to tell you about something that Matt actually alluded briefly to, the fact that Bob liked to play chess. Well, I grew up myself really liking to play chess. I started when I was in high school, and then I roomed with someone in college who played a game with me every single day. And I considered myself a pretty good chess player. And Laurie Ferguson, the then pastor, organized a retreat. I think it was at the Holmes Camp, which is a Presbyterian run facility about 50 miles north of here, and found myself the first evening we're there sitting near Bob, and we struck up a conversation, and it happened that I had brought a chessboard with me. I don't know why. I didn't usually bring chessboards with me on retreats. So I said, Bob, do you by any chance play chess? And he goes, yes, I do occasionally. So we started to play a game. And right away I noticed, well, he's using one of the standard openings. I can handle this. P.S. in about 7 moves I was defeated. And I couldn't understand how that happened. So I said, Bob, give me a rematch, will you? Well, that time I was defeated in 6 moves, I think. Well, the truth of the matter is, he later confessed that he was a bona fide master. If you know what that means in the chess world, that's a considerable accomplishment. And the truth of the matter, I'm making a little confession here. I literally have never played chess since. And the one thing else I should say is, I will always miss him.
I'm David Sanders, and I've been in this choir for about 40 years. Not too long ago, Bob and I were talking back in the coffee house after church service, and he asked me, I sing a lot here, he asked me if I would consider singing the Rose for him. And I said, well, yeah, I guess I'd have to clear it with Michael, but why do you want me to sing the Rose? And he said, because the Rose has a very special meaning to me, because it represents second chances at love. And I think that was obviously because of his deep romance with Carol. And I was very pleased to be able to do that.
My name is Grace. I'm Bob's older sister, and Bob and I had a real wonderful, complete relationship. He became the leader. I wanted to be the leader, but he became the leader in everything. And Bob was rock solid. When I needed help, counseling, money, he was there. When my daughter Allison was married in England, Bob came over to give her away, and Matt had his first pub crawl. And then Lisa had to wipe it up. In England, the bride comes in first. There's no build-up, excitement. And he said, well, we're going to go for it. Matt did a wonderful reading, and we were, with the novelty, all those Americans, all the villagers housed us. And it was incredibly beautiful, but Bob was there, my sister was there, Jennifer was there, and Claire, for other reasons, was there. Yeah, she was there. Sorry. Bob was the poobah in our family, and then he became the grand poobah, and then he became the oracle. So he was there for my mother, he was there for me, he was there when I needed him. He would fly to where you were. He would, if I needed blood, I knew where I could get it. And he wrapped me in his arms, and he still is. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Burns, and I'm Bob's niece. And when I was proposed to, in your home in Nyack, I was proposed to by my husband. It was beautiful, but my first thought was, who's going to walk me down the aisle? You know, it's a long journey. Who can I ask? And of course, I asked Uncle Bob. He didn't hesitate a minute. He said, I'd be happy to do it. What do I wear? I said, well, I will find out about that. Well, in England, when you get married, you wear a top hat, tails, gloves, spats on your shoes. For those of you that don't know, you wear a very shiny shoe, but you have a felt covering over your shoe that buttons. He loved it. He wanted to wear it the whole week. We were there. He said, "Can I please buy it and take it home with me to wear it to church?" And we went to the tailor. He said, "Sir, I'm very sorry, but we rent those. They're not for sale." He said, "I will pay any amount of money so I can wear this at home." Unfortunately, he wasn't able to. But he loved dressing up. He loved being the center of attention, but he didn't make you feel like you weren't the center of attention. You know, when the time came to be that person, he was there. But he also knew when to step back and not take the spotlight from others. My mother-in-law was a tough woman. My husband grew up in a very small village. She was very disappointed. He married an American. He said, "Why don't you marry someone who can cook?" So Bob and her got along really well. She liked Bob. He was wonderful with her. Not so much with me. But like everyone has said, you can go to him for anything. And one of my favorite phone calls with Uncle Bob was I was thinking about buying a car. I had just graduated from college. My father had passed. I called Uncle Bob. I said, "Bob, I need to buy a car, but I don't know whether to buy it or lease it." He said, "What year is it and how many miles does it have?" So even mundane things like that, he would be there, from giving me away at my wedding to helping me buy a car. So we'll miss him forever. We love him. And he's with Carol now. So we're happy about that.
I'm Bill Menke, a member of the church here. I met Bob in 1977, not in a capacity of a church member, even though we both have been members of this church for a long time ago. Not as his capacity as a pool shark, even though I like that game, but in his capacity as engineer. It was a very hectic time, wonderful time, but hectic time for my wife Dallas and I in 1977. In a few short months, we got married in Maine, attended a workshop in France, did field work in Italy, and spent several months being seasick in an oceanographic vessel off of the coast of Africa. And in between that, somehow we decided we needed diamond drill bits to support our rock collection in Italy. Lamont Geological ordered them for us, but we had to go to some small factory, I guess in New Jersey, to pick them up. And when we got there, there was Bob. We didn't know it at the time. It was only later that we got to know each other. But just in the space of a few short minutes of picking up some supplies, Bob must have seen that we were had been having a hectic time. He sat us down. We chatted for what seemed to be a long time, maybe a half an hour, about all sorts of things. He put us at ease, and it's something I've always remembered. And it was one. Bob had many gifts, but one of them, a great one of them for sure, was the ability to talk with people and put them at ease. And to give them a sense that they were part of his life, that they were part of the going-ons. So thank you, Bob.
Anybody else? Certainly these stories will continue even after this service and in the days and in the months to come, and we welcome them. We welcome them here in the church. I know the family welcomes them. It's how we keep Bob in our hearts and keep him close. And so I invite you to share those stories. And even if you don't share them now with the family, maybe send them a little note in a couple months from now when they need that little pick-me-up, that little reminder of Bob's special connection with you. Bob was an interesting character. I didn't get to know him as well as so many gathered here. My interactions, though, always left me with a smile, a laugh, or a deep thought. As Bill said, that the interactions that you had with him, he always drew you in and made you feel connected. And I only knew Bob for 7 months. That's a brief period of time, but as many of you know, nothing with Bob is brief. You get such a deep and intimate connection with him right away. And I'm thankful to have been able to know him and to be able to be here today. Bob meant so much to so many different people. He was somebody who was known by so many different names. Husband, father, stepdad, poobah, grand poobah, and the one I just learned today, Oracle. He was a brother, an uncle, a friend, a gardener, a dancer. The list could go on and on. He was a man of many trades, a history buff, an avid reader, storyteller, deep thinker, and a mystic. Bob wasn't necessarily certain of what was out there in the great beyond, but he was certain there was something. And, right? I think any deep thinkers are always questioning what is out there. What is there beyond this? And so whether it was God or a higher power or the power of the universe around us, he trusted and believed that there was more to life than what meets the eye. He was a man who chanted and prayed regularly, absorbed Buddhist teachings, and attended worship here faithfully. And one who shared with me his desire to sing Onward Christian Soldier when I asked for favorite hymns this past summer. And in the same breath recognized, well, perhaps that's not the most appropriate anymore. But there is something about that, this hymn that connected him to his childhood, the start of his faith journey, his life journey. One that perhaps wasn't always easy, but one where he strived to bring his love into all parts of his life. This love that was genuine, it was authentic, it was real. And in fact, this passage that we read from Romans really does sum up how Bob strived to live in this way of life, living in authentic relationships with those around him, striving for harmony, for peace, and well, what Romans kinds of hints at is walking with others. Weeping with those who weep, contributing to the needs of the saints, extending hospitality to the strangers, rejoicing with those who rejoice. Much of what Bob did was just this, walking with others along the journey, whether through telling those he just met the history of Piermont, to dancing the mashed potato with his loved ones, walking with Carol through her health issues, daily phone calls with his kids, or going to every play or game his grandkids were in, literally walking the pier weekly with his friends. So much of the stories that were lifted up were about Bob walking the journey of life with those around him. with those he loved, with those he just met, and even the strangers that he passed by. And there's something about it that reminds me of Psalm 23, where we are told the shepherd leads us, the shepherd walks with us. There's something about this psalm that resonates with so many, and it's so often used in times like these. It ends with the assurance of dwelling in the house of the Lord forever, but it's deeper than just that. The psalmist assures us that we don't walk alone through life. Rather, God is always with us in the good times of green pastures and still waters, to the hard and painful times, the valley of the shadow of death, and everything in between. And as Bob walked with those around him, God walked with Bob. Whether he realized it or not, God walked with him through it all. Through good times of love, marriages, births of children and grandchildren, family celebrations. Through the hard times, painful times of divorce, strained relationships, difficult medical diagnoses, not just for himself, but for those he loved, those he cared for. Through the death of loved ones. And God walked with Bob even in the mundane, ordinary days, being out in the garden, baking quiches for coffee hour, walking the pier in his daily game of chess. God walked with Bob through it all. Finally welcoming him home to dwell in the house of the Lord. And beloved, it's not just that God walked with Bob, it's that God walks with us, all of us, through it all. Through love, God walks with us throughout all of this life, even when we don't always feel God's presence with us. God is there. Through the good times, the bad, the hard times, the mundane and ordinary days, God is there. The promise of God with us, Emmanuel, throughout all of life. And God is here now, with us, walking with us through the valley of death, holding our troubled hearts. And God will continue to be with us through these days ahead, providing glimpses of light, reminders of Bob's love for us. For even though he is gone, we can continue to find comfort in our memories of him. The images and pictures that come to mind when his name is spoken, when stories are shared, when the mashed potato is danced, when jokes are told. And when these memories arise, may you find your heart warmed and comforted and experience a wonderful feeling of love. May you be encouraged once again, encouraged by Bob, encouraged by God's great love, until we all meet again. Praise be to God for Bob. Praise be to God for a love that grants everlasting life, when we will fully be encompassed and fully know God's great love for all of us. Amen. Beloved, I ask that you bow your head and join me in prayer. O God of compassion, before whom generations rise and pass away, comfort us with the great power of your love as we mourn the sudden death of our beloved Bob. In our grief and confusion, lift this heavy sorrow. Help us find peace in the knowledge of your loving mercy to all your children. And give us light to guide us into the assurance of your love. We thank you for our brother Bob, and praise you for the gift of his life, for all in him that was good and kind and faithful. We thank you for the precious memories that will abide with us and look forward to glad reunion in the life to come. Amen.
Hallelujah.